Welcome to the Dragon Coastal Races route brief. My name is Ben Morris. I'm one of the race directors. So just some general considerations before we start. Firstly, make sure you keep vigilant for the Wales Coast Path signs at junctions and our arrows, especially when you're leaving the coastal path. Make sure you're paying attention to your GPS and your map. Make sure you have enough battery to run your GPS device, because if you need your phone, you must have additional battery pack in case you need to use your phone in an emergency. If you are lost or have any doubts, please call us to confirm. So as this is a coastal race, it's important to be aware of the tide times. You can see the tide times down the side of the page there. So for the Dragon 100 runners, at approximately 12.5 miles, at Three Cliffs Bay, you cross over the stepping stones, and you need to be aware that the high tide is at 9:22. If you go too slow on that first section, the stepping stones may be too high for you to cross. It's unlikely, but there is just an area you need to be aware of. If it is dangerous to cross, then you need to take the high tide diversion route. The moral is don't hang around on that first section. And then for both the Dragon 100 and Dragon 50 runners, on Sunday morning, the high tide is at 9:50, and this will affect both sets of runners at the Ogmore stepping stones, which is 67 miles for the Dragon 100 and approximately 17 miles for the Dragon 50 runners. Most of the field will cross that area between 8 AM and lunchtime. If the stepping stones are dangerous to cross, just follow that high tide route slightly further upriver. That's well signposted, and we'll have marshals out just being vigilant about that. It's just important to be aware. Under no circumstances should you wade through the river. For the Dragon 50 runners, you can fast forward now to approximately 16 minutes to the slide entitled Start Dragon 50. So the race starts at the tip of the peninsula at the lookout station by the Worm's Head. So there's a short walk to this point from the registration location. The registration is in the field behind the toilet block right next to the National Trust building. So on that section, you follow the Wales Coast Path along the cliff top. It hugs between the cliff top and there's a farm wall, relatively straightforward, and it's really well signposted. At the Port Einan Monument, make sure you take the path towards the beach and campsite. You keep an eye on the GPS trace there, because you could zigzag off to slightly the wrong path, so just pay attention. You need to gain the beach and follow the route down to the beach and exit the beach on the large slipway, obvious slipway, and the checkpoint is just on that slipway on the exit from the beach. So leave the checkpoint, follow the Wales Coast Path along the coast. Approximately 2k after the checkpoint, the coast path heads inland around the field. It's quite an obvious point and it's clearly signposted. It then crosses over a stile and continues along the coast. At that point, you need to make sure you follow our signage, our route, slightly more inland, and follow the road down to Oxford Bay. There'll be additional running arrows out, and this is just to make sure the distance is correct and everybody passes over the stepping stones before the high tide gets in. So once you're on Oxford Bay, you can cross the entire bay by staying on the beach. It's quicker, it's better terrain, you can run on the hard sand. After about 1.5 km, you'll hit a shallow stream, and you can cross that either by jumping through if you're keen, or you can just head 50 meters or so inland and there's a small bridge. It gets deeper if you go inland. If the tide's out relatively, it's quite easy just to tiptoe through the stream on the beach. About 1k after the stream, you need to take a left straight up onto the cliff top, up through a sand dune path. The GPS file is really accurate here. If you've done our Gower races, you'll know this route. It follows the exact same route as the Gower races. Now, once you hit the cliff top, then you need to take a right, continue east along the Wales Coast Path. Follow the Wales Coast Path signs towards Three Cliffs Bay. You should drop down the sand dunes into Three Cliffs Bay. This is the stepping stones you need to cross. Again, just to reiterate, if the stepping stones are dangerous to cross, you need to follow the high tide route. Okay, they're fine to cross over the stepping stones, regain the cliff top in front. It's a short, steep sand dune to get up, and then just follow the Wales Coast Path, generally in the right direction along the cliff top to the checkpoint 2, which is in Southgate Car Park. Once you leave Southgate, follow the Wales Coast Path alongside the road. Once you hit Hunts Barn, make sure you head right and follow the coast path downhill around Pooldy Head. At that point, the steps can be quite slippery here. We have had accidents there in the past, so just make sure you take your time and be careful on that section. Now along the coast a bit further, as you come to Caswell Bay, again another place you need to follow the high tide route onto the road and then head down into the bay. So the GPS shows the high tide route, as will the map. It's pretty obvious and well signposted, and it'll be pretty obvious that you can't actually cross the bay there because the tide will be clearly in. Once you've crossed that main entrance to the bay, past the car park and the toilets, you can regain the coast path behind the cafe, which runs up onto the cliff top. It's a little bit obscure there, so just make sure you look around the back of the cafe and you'll see the coast path there. Follow the obvious Wales Coast Path along the cliff top. It's well signposted again. Once you arrive at the next bay, which is Langham Bay, you cross directly over the bay, so go all the way across the clear bay, and then at the far end of the bay, just before the coast path heads round up to the Mumbles Head, you need to leave the Wales Coast Path and head inland towards the checkpoint. This is going to ensure the distance is 100 miles and you're not adding extra distance. It's another location here where 1 or 2 participants in the past have ignored the instructions, the GPS trace, the map, and the extra running arrows, which will be out, and this brief, and have added extra distance to the course. It's not hard to do, but just need to pay attention. There'll be running arrows at all the junctions, and the GPS trace will clearly show you the way to go. The checkpoint is in Victoria Hall on the Mumbles. What I would do, and it's a good idea, is to just check this location and maybe the one at Oxwich Bay and any others you're interested out using Google Maps over the next week or so to allow you to better visualize the route. And as you'll be doing a lot less training now, it's a good idea you could spend a little bit of that time just looking on Google Maps in that route format and allow you to visualize it. So the checkpoint provides the first opportunity to access your drop bag. Many people will change shoes and socks here as there's not much sand now until after halfway. I'd also advise comfy shoes for the next section as there's a lot of hard pack trail, forest tracks, cycle tracks, that sort of thing. So once you leave the checkpoint, turn left out the door, hit the coast and then follow the well-marked cycle path along Swansea Bay all the way to the docks. At the docks, cross over the estuary at the end. So once you cross over the docks, again, follow Wales Coast Path signs, brings you out on the Tennant Canal footpath, which you'll follow along the canal footpath for 2 miles. The footpath comes to a natural end on the road, so you take a right turn when you hit the road. Just follow down to the main roundabout, take a left, and after about a mile on the cycle path, you turn a right and take a turn over the A48 bridge. And the boys will put a few extra markers out between the roundabout and the checkpoint. The checkpoint's in the McDonald's car park as you come off the bridge. The next section goes through the forest, so you need to keep your eyes peeled at junctions for our signs, our running tape, our arrows, which will be well marked through this section. So you need to keep an eye on the GPS trace. Once you've left the checkpoint, approximately 400 meters after the checkpoint, pavement comes to an end, and then you need to take a small lane on the left. You can see that turning in the bottom left picture. Once you've gone up that lane, approximately 10 meters up that lane, there's a footpath on the right. It goes up alongside a garage. It takes you into the woods proper. You follow through the woods, follow signs. You exit the woods past the school. As you run down the road, approximately 200 meters past the school, look for this sharp turn back on yourself. And you can see that in the bottom right picture. Follow that road for approximately 2 km uphill. Then you're looking for the right turn onto a farm forest track, as seen in that top left picture. Now, although it will be dark at this point for everybody. Again, there'll be an arrow, a running arrow there. You follow that track then down to the valley floor, past the houses, then at the main road at the bottom of the hill, turn left on the pavement alongside the river. Again, there'll be arrows there. After about 80 meters, just before the houses, turn right and cross over the river. On the turn-in, you can see there in the bottom right picture. After crossing the river, you go initially uphill onto a cycle path where you turn left along the cycle path, which takes you through the village. And when you're exiting the village, you're looking for the viaduct, which is that picture on the top right. Again, this will be marked, and just make sure you're quiet as you go through the village. So once you've crossed over the viaduct, you take a right turn and head into the Silent Forest car park. As you enter the car park, go right to the end of the car park. As you take the left fork up into the forest, which heads alongside the left of the river. After about 2.5 km up that track, there's a right turn that you need to take, which takes you across the river. This will be marked as well. Across the river, go up through the next forest section. Now, once you enter Bryn to checkpoint 5, the checkpoint is as you exit the village. So you need to come across the main road. Be careful here because there are fast cars and they do get fast drivers through the night. And then you need to go up to the left of the pub, forest the signs, put some extra tape out, the signs there to make sure you can find your way through the village. And as you are exiting the village, you go into the forest, follow the forest trail up around to the right, where the checkpoint will be, about 200 meters into the forest. It's important to remember there should be no crew in the forest checkpoint. If you do have crew, the only place really to meet you here is would be on that main road crossing. There's a little parking, but please don't drive up into the residential area. So actually checkpoint 5, turn immediately left. The marshal will show you the way. Then follow the obvious track for approximately 1.5 km. There's no extra running arrows through that section until you get to the end of that track. There's a gate at the end of the track. There's no actual turn-ins off, so it's just literally one track. All the way to the gate, cross through the gate and then turn right, heading up alongside the edge of the golf course, hugging the fence line, and it takes you steeply uphill into the clear forest junction of tracks. And again, follow the tape and running arrows through the forest. As you head into Margam Park, follow the signs through the park. Careful and watch out for deer running wild through the park. As you exit the park in the far corner, you turn right through the gate, and then once you hit the main road, 100 meters or so out of the gate, the main A48 road, turn left along that road and follow the cycle path all the way into Pyle. Straightforward section. As you enter Pyle, turn right just before St James's Church, as can be seen on the top right picture. You follow that footpath behind the church, exiting the footpath, as seen on that middle right picture. And then you cross over the bridge. Once you cross that bridge, you're looking for this cycle path as seen on the bottom right picture, which runs alongside the stream. You follow the cycle path through the houses, exiting that cycle path as seen in the top left picture, and follow the road signposts and our arrows again, and tape to Kenfig Sands. This may be another area, just double checking on Google Maps or Google Street View. You've got some extra time this week. 3.6 is at Kenfig Sands in the reserve building. There'll be signposts highlighting the way in. It's also the start of the Dragon 50. At that checkpoint, you'll have the chance to access your drop bag for the second time. Once you've left the checkpoint, you can follow the marked path through the sand dunes to regain the coast. And at the coast, you'll rejoin the Wales Coast Path, turn left, and follow the Wales Coast Path back to Cardiff. The Dragon 50 is at Kenfig Sands. For those runners on the Dragon 50, there's a 4.5 mile start loop which runs through the sand dunes around the nature reserve before returning back to Kenfig Sand Reserve building, and then following the same route as the 100 runners and heading back to Cardiff on the Wales Coast Path. The loop's really well signposted, and it's also on the latest GPS trace, which is now on the website. It's important just to highlight that if you're a Dragon 100 runner, when you hit the coast for the first time, you turn left and head back to Cardiff. Whereas if you're a Dragon 50 runner, once you hit the coast, you need to turn right and follow that start loop. And then when you hit the coast on the second time, you need to turn left and follow back to Cardiff. There'll be clear signs and marshals at that point. The Wales Coast Path along the coast, it's clear and obvious. Keep the sea on your right. You'll end up going along into Puthcall. Once you reach Puthcall Harbour, you'll then reach Coney Bay Fairground. So you must follow the official Wales Coast Path route around the back of the fairground, and rather than crossing in front of it. Once you've crossed round, you regain the coast path, and checkpoint 7/checkpoint 2 is in the car park in Newton Village, as can be seen on the picture in the right. So once you leave the checkpoint, Puthcall, you'll head straight across the large beach all the way to the end of the beach, where you'll find the estuary, and there'll be a little signpost, Wales Coast Path signpost, which takes you left and through the Merthyr Mawr sand dunes all the way out, where you'll end up onto a small road. Follow the road down, and there's a right turn. Again, the Wales Coast Path is signposted where you cross a bridge and then through a couple of fields and then cross some stepping stones. Now, most people will arrive at the stepping stones close to high tide, so you will likely need to cross the river on the high tide route, which is slightly upstream, and use the bridge. This is marked on the map on the slide with the yellow arrows. Under no circumstances should you wade across the river, and don't try and cross the stepping stones if they're unpassable. Just make sure it's safe to do so. Once you're on the other side, turn right. It's a short jog down to the checkpoint, which is in the Ogmore by Sea Rivermouth car park. The next section from Ogmore to Llantwit is again super simple. The coast path just hugs the top of the cliff most of the way in. There's a couple of places it goes inland, but it's all really well marked. You won't need to look at your map particularly. You just follow the cliff top all the way through. Places on this part that you could get extra supplies. As you go into Dunraven Bay, at the bottom there's a kiosk, as you can see in that picture on the left, and on the picture on the right you'll see the kiosk at Nash Point Lighthouse, which also serves food and water, and you could be able to get some extra supplies there. The Lamra checkpoint allows you access to the drop bags for both races here. Again, it's another opportunity to change your shoes and socks for 100 miles, or to do it the first time for 50 miles. You could grab an extra warm layer for the evening section, depending on the conditions, or grab some resupply food. There will be hot water here, and pot noodles or similar rehydratable meals are often a favourite here. So the next section again is super simple to follow. Coast path is well signed and just follows along the edge of the cliffs. When you get close to the checkpoint, it's important we're not going into Porthcurry Park, as you may have had on the previous GPS if you recce'd it earlier in the year. But you're just going to follow past, follow past through the park, head up the steps, which is just to the side of a little bridge, and then follow the coast path along, and then you're going to drop down to the Nap. Again, it's all well signposted, and the checkpoint is going to be in the car park just at the bottom of the Nap. As you come down the hill, just take a look to your right, and you'll see the guys in the checkpoint waiting for you. So follow the coast path around the Nap, follow around the harbour. Once you've crossed the bridge at the end of Harbour Road, you'll see the island and the fairground in front, as seen in the picture on the bottom right. At that point, at that junction there, turn left on the Wales coast path. Make sure you just don't head around Barrier Island, as that will add extra distance to your race. As you leave the docks, you'll be running along a cycle path past the council buildings, and then approximately 400 metres after those buildings, start looking out for a right turn, as seen in the bottom left picture. There will be yellow arrows on the lamppost. We'll mark it up well, and this just takes you to the coast a bit earlier and gets you onto the trail a bit quicker than if you follow the official Wales coast path, which takes you through some residential areas. So we're looking for that right turn to hit the coast. Look out for our yellow running arrows. Once you've crossed, you come to a roundabout, you cross over the roundabout, and then you're looking to regain the coast path on the bottom right picture, as in the bottom right picture. And then once you hit the coast, turn left and follow the coast back to Cardiff. It's in the car park next to the captain's wife at Swanbridge. So if you go all the way through the car park, you'll literally bump into the checkpoint. You come down into Penarth, you come down the hill, you'll pass the pier, you follow straight past the pier, the road swings round to the left, past a centre called the Kymin Centre, and just after there's a turning right up some steps. It's signposted Wales Coast Path, and we'll also put some extra running arrows out on that section, and then we'll flag the section there from that point there down onto the bay, onto the barrage. As you come down the hill towards the bay, you'll see a roundabout, and you'll see the bay and the barrage in front of you, and at that roundabout you're going to go straight over, cross over the barrage, and then just follow clear and obvious cycle path around the bay, eventually coming out at the Norwegian church to the finish. So the finish is at the Norwegian church by the Scott Memorial in Cardiff Bay. It's a great location, views across the bay, great facilities inside. The cafe is open late into the night, so invite all your friends and family to come down and cheer you in. It's important, really important, especially finishing in the evening, to have a warm jacket or warm change of clothes to put on. Now, they should be in your drop bag, ideally. There are meal tickets, so you can see the marshals at the finish provide you with a meal ticket, which you've got a set menu for you to choose something off. when you arrive, and we're hoping to create a really good atmosphere to the finish. It's a great location, get as many people down as you can. And just to summarise some of the key points, initially for the Dragon 100 runners, 1k after Port Island checkpoint 1, head inland and follow the country lanes to Oxbridge Bay. Do not go around Oxbridge Point. At the far end of Oxbridge Bay, just after you've crossed that stream, head up the hill onto the cliff, regain the Wales coastal path. Tide is covering the stepping stones at Three Cliffs Bay. Ensure you follow the marked high tide route. At Caswell Bay, follow the marked high tide route. At the far end of Langland Bay, turn left, head inland and follow the road, which will have run, walk, crawl, running arrows to the Mumbles checkpoint. Keep vigilant for signs and GPS track through the Avon Forest between checkpoint 4 and checkpoint 6. Dragon 100 and Dragon 50 runners, just want to highlight it's important. Be careful when you're crossing roads. It's your responsibility to cross all roads safely. Use pedestrian crossings where appropriate and available. At Coney Bay, follow the route around the back of the fairground. At Ogmore, follow the Wales coastal path signs to the Ogmore stepping stones. If the tide is high, follow the high tide route slightly upstream and cross the bridge. Do not wade or swim across the river. At Barry, cross over Harbour Road, and then at the island, turn left. You do not need to go around the island. At Cardiff Bay, cross the barrage, then follow the cycle path around the bay to the finish. If in doubt, or if you are lost, give the run, walk, crawl number a call, and we will guide you back onto the route. We'll be able to see where you are in GPS tracker and get you back onto the route safely. Okay. Finally, good luck, stay safe, enjoy, and remember, always say thank you to our volunteers.